This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. I'm back at you this week with another terrific video story. This one is titled, Guy Contemplates Taking Back Unfaithful Girlfriend After Ghosting Her a Year Ago. So a year ago, this guy's girlfriend cheats on him, he finds out, and he does the right thing. He leaves her, he ghosts her, but now here he is a year later, he's feeling lonely, and he's feeling like maybe I'll never find another woman like her again, and he's contemplating whether he should take her back, which is something you should never do. But luckily our man here, he ends up doing the right thing. Now let's get into this story and see what it's all about. He starts off and he says, a little over a year ago, I discovered my girlfriend was cheating on me. For this post, I'll call her Carla. When I confirmed it was true, I set a plan in place and ended up ghosting and blocking her everywhere after I left. Well, like I said, he did the right thing out of the gate. Since then, she has been trying to get me back. Very typical. While I've been strong and moving forward on my own ever since, I'm beginning to question whether I acted too harshly. Carla and I met 6 years ago at a Target store of all places. We struck up a conversation and I asked for her number. A few days later, I texted her and we set up a first date. From that date until the day I left her, we had been an exclusive couple. Well, not entirely, because you caught her cheating on you. She had also become like a second mother to my son, who was only 3 when she came into our lives. We were both 22 at the time. So this guy had a kid when he was like 19 years old. And you're going to see this plays a big role into why he's even considering taking this woman back. He says, after a year of dating, we moved in together, and a year after that, we bought a house together that once belonged to her grandmother. The house was in terrible condition and needed a lot of work. We spent much of our free time doing the renovations with the help of our family and friends. This brought us even closer as a couple and solidified the bond between our families. We ended up selling that house for a nice profit just a few months before the breakup. After the sale, we were living out of an Airbnb while we searched for another place to buy. During that search is where she crossed paths with a guy she would eventually cheat on me with. He says, I'll call him Braden. He is a real estate salesperson who showed us a couple properties. I discovered the affair by sheer luck. One day she misplaced her phone and couldn't find it. While she looked for it inside, I went out to check the cars. I ended up finding it under her driver's seat, and before giving it back, I decided to take a look around. Now, I wonder why he decided to take a look around. He doesn't specify the reason why, but I'm thinking he probably was suspicious. He says that's when I discovered an app she had been using to communicate with Braden. There they exchanged hundreds of descriptive messages along with many graphic pictures. So here again, we have two cheaters exchanging pictures. How stupid can you be? When I read them, I will admit it broke my heart and made me sick to my stomach. I thought we were a family, and the sad thing is we had been discussing having a family of our own when this all happened. Well, you dodged a bullet there. In my mind, we had everything, but I guess only I saw it that way. Leaving her was extremely difficult mentally, but very easy physically since we had been living in the Airbnb and all our stuff was in storage. The only thing I had to do when I left was pack my clothes and get the items I wanted out of storage. I also set up a new bank account and moved half our savings there. Before doing that, I ended the account alerts for her phone so she was not notified of the transaction. That's smart. Before blocking her, I sent a long text near the end of the workday telling her I knew about Braden and officially broken up with her. So that's how he did it, over text. I let her know I moved out and took my half of the money and left most of the furniture for her. Why do a lot of these guys leave most of the furniture to the cheating ex? Take the furniture that's yours and get out of there. I wished her well, and that was it. I wouldn't have wished her well. A 6-year relationship gone in an instant. The ease by which it ended was both good and bad for me. It was good because I didn't have to deal with the emotion of facing her, but bad because I internalized everything, which ate me up for months until I was able to move past it. One of the hard parts was explaining to my son why Carla was no longer part of our lives. Well, that would be difficult. I didn't mince words and told him she had a new boyfriend. Telling my family and friends was nearly as difficult and really embarrassing as they all knew and really liked her. I guess she had us all fooled. Well, cheaters are that way. Everyone thought we were an ideal couple and were very disappointed and sad for me. I put a lot into the relationship and all my future plans were crushed. See, in this case, you could tell this guy wanted this relationship far more than the woman did because he's building his whole world around this and he's idealizing it like, this is my family now. I've got a second mother for my child and now we can go on and have our family, but this woman didn't feel the same way. He says, like I said, it was tough, but I got through it. Thank God for my son and my family. If not for them, I don't know if I would have. Since the breakup, Carla has been very remorseful about what she did and respectful of me and my son. She never made a big scene and admitted to all our family and friends what she had done and how sorrowful she is about it. She has never dated since and still tells everyone how much she loves me. Are you absolutely sure she's never dated since? This is the same woman you didn't know was cheating on you. When I finally agreed to meet up with her a few weeks after I left, she conveyed how sorry she was and didn't ask for anything. She just said she hoped one day I could forgive her and was willing to do anything to be part of our lives again. Well, why didn't you think about that before you cheated on the poor guy? At that point, I was still raw with pain, so I didn't say much and didn't make any promises. I just let her speak and listened. Since that meeting, I haven't spoken or seen her in nearly a year until this past Sunday. I understand through friends and her relatives she's been depressed and really misses me and my son. Well, again, why did she do what she did if she misses you guys so much? On Sunday morning, I took my son out to breakfast and afterward we stopped at a grocery store to pick up a few items. While shopping, we ran into Carla. My son spotted her first and ran up to her and they embraced. It was an emotional thing to see the mutual fondness they had for each other on display. I probably would have handled the situation differently had he not been with me, but seeing them embracing melted whatever animosity I still had for her. See, this guy really wants to find a woman to be a second mother to his child. It was the first time he had seen her since the breakup and the first time I had spoken to her since that final meeting I had with her. She looked amazing and a rush of emotions came over me. I felt very awkward and uncomfortable. I wanted to hate her for what she did, but I couldn't. She and my son were asking each other lots of questions, and we ended up talking for quite a while until I had to move things along. The most uncomfortable moment came when my son asked if she was married. With a level of embarrassment, she told him no, she wasn't married and doesn't have a boyfriend. See how she added that? Oh, I'm not married, and I also don't have a boyfriend. After we checked out and got into the car, my son told me, Dad, since Carla's not married, maybe you can be her boyfriend again. Without getting into too much detail, I told him that wouldn't be happening. He was disappointed, but I distracted him with another subject and we moved on. However, that encounter has been stuck in my mind ever since. A few days after we ran into Carla, I received a long letter from her. She started by saying how good it was seeing me and my son, then went on to again tell me how sorry and regretful she is. She said she has not gotten over us and would do anything to be part of our family again. It was difficult reading that, and I'll admit it got me thinking about my life. In fact, I haven't been able to concentrate on anything else since. Now listen to what he says next. Carla is the only woman I've ever truly loved, and to be honest, I think I'm the only man she was ever in love with. Although I guess only she could answer that. Yeah, don't be too sure about that, my man. Even though we weren't married, she was like a second mother to my son. See, here you go. She couldn't have treated him any better, even if he was her own, and seeing the two of them reunited really brought back a wave of emotion. She was the person I always dreamed would come into our lives. Someone I was deeply in love with who would love my son as her own. Someone to build a family and grow old with. My life has been okay since, but there's a gaping hole that she used to occupy. So I'm sure his life is hectic. I'm sure he's working hard, to try to pay the bills, to keep up his family. He's taking care of his kid, and he's got a lot going on, so he probably doesn't have a lot of time to get out there and meet women. So he's probably feeling lonely, and he's saying, well, I've got this woman here that I loved. She was the only woman I ever loved, and yeah, she did a terrible thing to me, but I'm so tempted to take her back. And what I say to that is, don't do it. You're going to make a mistake. Recently, I've been second guessing my decision and thinking maybe I threw in the towel too early. What do you mean, my man? She was cheating on you and sending pictures and doing who knows what else with this guy. You didn't throw in the towel too early. I don't know if I'll ever find anyone who loved me and my son like Carla did. Well, hopefully not. You don't want to find someone that's going to cheat on you again. I might be crazy for even thinking this, but I can't get her out of my head. I'd be interested in hearing from anyone who has been through something like this, looking for answers. And that's the end of his original post. Now we're going to take a look at some of the comments and responses he got back, but before we do that, I want to remind you, if you're liking what you've heard so far in this video, be sure to hit that like button right now. That will help get this video seen across the planet and also help out this channel tremendously. Now let's take a look at some of those comments. The first one is from a woman. She says, in my opinion, I don't think it's ever a good idea to get back with a person who cheated on you. I agree with you, ma'am. If they did it once, they'll probably do it again. It's a sickness. Also, what happened to the mother of your child? Is she still in the picture? Now listen to what the OP says here. Thank you for your message. I appreciate the feedback. Regarding my son's mother, yes, she is very much in the picture and we share 50-50 custody. She is a great mother who is now married and has 2 additional children. She and I worked together at a fast food place the summer after we graduated high school. We became good friends and dated a few times, and she got pregnant. Well, listen, you didn't just date there, obviously. There was much more going on than just a few dates. He says, we were just 2 young and dumb kids. We weren't in love, but were the best of friends, and our faith guided us to do the right thing and raise our son as co-parents. It was the best decision as our son is a terrific kid, and we are both great parents, if I must say so myself. So this guy really jumped into the deep end of the pool right out of the gate, right after graduation here, and he does that. It's going to limit a lot of the things that you can do. Now, I have to hand it to him and his girlfriend for keeping the baby and being good parents. I mean, they got my utmost respect for that. But when you jump into life like that at a very young age and you don't have any money, and I'm sure you're struggling, you're just getting started, you're going to make your life very difficult. And you can see that's really factoring in why this guy is second guessing whether he should take back his cheating ex. The next response is from a guy. He says, no offense, man, but you sound desperate. Desperate to be in a relationship and have a family. When guys get to that point, they lose their common sense and make bad decisions. Absolutely, he's 100% correct here. This is why the divorce rate in this country is so high. You sound like a solid guy and a great father. Take your time and find someone who is deserving of you. This woman isn't. The next response is from a woman. She says, she may have learned a life lesson from this and may never do it again, but do you want to waste more of your life finding out? You and your son gave her 6 great years and she threw it all away. Don't put yourself through that, and don't put your son through that. She showed you her true colors. You're young and have many good years ahead of you. Now listen to what this woman says. She says, women find single fathers to be very attractive. I know I did because I married one with 2 kids. We've been together for 19 years and have 3 kids of our own. Now, I've read that. I've read articles about that there's kind of a stigma with single mothers, but on the other side, single fathers, women actually find those men attractive. So for all you single fathers out there, don't despair. If you're looking for a woman, there's probably one out there for you. And the final response is from a guy. He says, I recently read an article stating that a person who cheats has a 45% chance of cheating again. Those are terrible odds. So according to this, it's not once a cheater, always a cheater. It's once a cheater, 45% chance of a cheater. Now, I don't know about that. I think it's probably higher. I don't think it's 100%, but I bet it's closer to 75 or 80% because, to be honest with you, they may never find out that the person cheated again. Compare that to the average slot machine that pays back around 90% to players, but most people never walk away a winner. And that's a good point. You know, the slot machines say, oh, we only take out 10% or 12%, but most people never win. That's because the majority of people playing those slot machines are going to lose, and there's going to be 1 or 2 people that hit a nice jackpot. The responder says you might be one of the lucky ones, or she might be good for a year or 2 or 10 and then end up doing the same thing again one day. It's not worth the risk. Life is too short. And I agree with him on that. Now the OP comes back with a series of updates so we can see how everything turned out. The first update came 4 days later. He says, "Thank you to everyone who has written me back. Your messages have been very helpful to me during this time. I wanted to respond to a few common questions I've gotten. First, regarding Braden. He no longer lives in our area. When he and Carla were having their affair, he was in the final stages of getting a divorce from his wife. I planned to tell his wife, but didn't since their marriage was basically already over. I would have still told her. From what I've heard, after the divorce, he moved to another part of our state and is selling real estate there. He has a son about my son's age who lives full-time with his mother. I guess Carla must have a thing for single dads." Well, there you go. Obviously she does. As for the questions on dating, I haven't dated anyone since Carla. I've really never had the opportunity as all I do is work and spend time with my son. See that? It's really difficult meeting new people. I don't go out to bars and I'm not a dating app person, so it's hard finding someone with my life the way it is now. As for me being desperate in a relationship, I'm not desperate, but I definitely want that someday. I want to be married and have a big family. I want to find someone to be with forever and to be a second mother to my son. I think that's really healthy. Call me old-fashioned, but that's just me. And there's nothing wrong with a guy wanting to do that. But I disagree with him here. I think he is desperate for that. You know, the mother of his child now has gone on and she's remarried and she has 2 additional kids. And this guy isn't finding anyone. Well, he thought he found someone, but she ended up being a cheater. He's not finding another person, so he's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. Am I a loser? No one's going to want me, you know. And I think he is getting desperate, which is never good. His next update comes 6 days later. He says, "After thinking through everything, I've decided to meet with Carla. Why? I know many of you will be disappointed in me to hear this, but I've got to do it. I've got to explore the feelings and thoughts I've been having about her to see if there's something still there. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but I've got to do it. I've got to do it for me and my son." No, you're not doing it for your son. You're doing it for yourself. Your son already has a mother, and it sounds like she's a good mother, and he's got you. He says, "I don't want to look back in 10 years and regret not at least exploring things. I'll send out another update after our meeting." Ugh. So now he comes back with his final update. And this final update came 13 days later. He said, "I had the meeting with Carla and it went well and was very good for me. We talked for a couple hours and I was able to hash out many of the things I had been keeping bottled up inside me. By the end of our conversation, I realized that I was indeed over her. I didn't feel any animosity towards her and I didn't feel any desire for her. I really felt nothing." So he had reached a point of indifference, which is good. Not in the actual sense, but nothing from a love interest perspective. I still had respect and interest in her as a person, but it was more like seeing a long-lost friend you haven't seen in years and realizing you were both different people now. I was honest and told her this, and she understood. She told me she didn't feel that way and still loved me more than ever, but she said she understood how I feel after what happened. In a way, it was sad, but in another way, I put that part of my life behind me and it felt really good. I don't know if I'll ever see her again, and that's okay. I wish her nothing but the best and hope she has a happy life. For now, I'm content being a father to my son and working to build a better life for us. Thank you for following my story and for the messages many of you have sent. And that's the end of his story. So in the end, he ended up doing the right thing. And this guy sounds like a solid individual. Now, he's obviously made a lot of mistakes in his life, and I don't fully fault him for exploring to see if he still had feelings for this woman, Carla. I mean, that's fine that he met with her. I probably wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't think it's necessary, but he had to do it just to get that out of his system. And in the end, he made the right decision. And now I want to take a look at what I think are the morals of the story. The first one, Long-term cohabitating can expose a person's true personality. Remember now, this guy and this woman were living together for like 4 or 5 years, and then she ends up cheating on him. Now, if he'd have married her earlier on, then he'd be dealing with a whole other quagmire of issues. So this really supports that it probably is beneficial if you're going to get married to live with a woman for a while to find out her true personality. Next. It's best to tell kids what happened in an age-appropriate way. And that's what he did in this case. He told his son, hey, Carla found a new boyfriend and that's why she's no longer with us. And I think that was the right way to handle it. Next. Never make a decision out of desperation, especially one of these life decisions like this, or really any decision. Don't buy a car out of desperation. Don't buy a house out of desperation. And for God's sakes, don't get married or get into a serious relationship with someone out of desperation. It's probably not going to work out well for you. Next. Being a single father generally does not carry a societal stigma. I'll admit there is a double standard on this. There is a stigma with single mothers, whether it's deserved or not, that's up for debate. But with single fathers, there's not. I'm sure there are some out there say, oh, I don't want anything to do with a single father. He's got children with another woman. I don't want any part of that. But there's quite a few women out there that find these men attractive. And there's been stories written about it. There's been studies done on it. Now, whether you believe it or not, I don't know, but I think there's something to it. Next. Remember the old saying, once a cheater, always a cheater. Or at least 45% according to that one respondent. And again, I don't think it's 100%, but it's probably closer to 75 or 80%. So do you really want to take that chance? And finally, cheating is something you'll never fully get over, so it's best to move on with the next chapter of your life. Don't waste your time. And those are my thoughts, and now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? How do you think this guy handled the situation? Have you ever been in a situation like this? Were you ever a single father, a young single father like this guy, and how did things work out for you? Tell us about it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you on the next one.